I decided to create this in Palette or PE Design 11 because there's more control over all the steps and they have built-in buttonholes. So the first thing when you open your program is choose to set the hoop size and the fabric size. This went over here. I'm using a machine. The hoop size I'm going to be using is 10 5/8 by 16. So I've chosen that. And I'm going to use cotton fabric, so I've chosen that. I have the grid work on here, and we're on the home page. We'll go to the shapes menu, choose this oval shape, and immediately I'm going to put it on a running stitch with no fill. And then I'll just draw a circle in the middle. This is not a perfect circle. I'm going to change the size. So I'm going to go to the home and I'll go to size. I'm going to uncheck maintain aspect ratio because I want to make it a perfect circle. And I want this circle to be 10 1/4 inches. So I'll type in 10.25 in both spots. And now I have a circle, but as you can see, it's not centered, so I will go to the Arrange tab and move it to the center. So this will be my placement stitch. So let's go ahead and color it the placement stitch. I'm going to make a copy of that and paste it. It'll be right over the top. I need to make a separate color. This will be my tack down stitch. I am then going to copy it again and paste that, and that will be my second program stitch. But before that, I do want to include the buttonholes. So buttonholes are actually found under Import and in the Design Library, buttonhole size small. And I'm just going to choose this first one and move that with all the crosshairs over here toward where I'd want it. I'm going to make a copy of that just so that I could use this as a drawstring. You could do just one buttonhole if you're just putting elastic in, because this is for feeding the elastic in. So those are going to happen on the first layer of fabric. So I'm going to move this other circle down for attaching the next one. And so my second piece of fabric is going to be put on right side up, and we'll need to stitch a circle, but I think I'll change this to the bean stitch or the triple stitch for that circle. And I want to make a circle inside these buttonholes too to actually create the casing. So I'm going to select this object. I'm going to copy and paste it. It is with the triple stitch, but I want the new one to be smaller. So I'll choose it and go to the size button, and I'm going to make this, keeping the same order, I'm going to make it 8.8. Preview that. Those buttonholes are not looking exactly like I would do it, but I think I'll leave it at the 8 by 8, and I think I can move these buttonholes over. Move them inside. It does seem to fit there, but we'll check when we do the satin stitch. So the very last thing I want to do is have a finish on the very far edge. I'm going to go back to this one, select this object, the full circle, go to Home, copy, paste, and I think I'd like to do both things they would do with an applique, but I found that the applique is not giving me the measurements that make this easy to fix. So I'm going to go into this first one. I want to make a V-stitch on it, and I want that to be 10.68. It's a little bit bigger than most, so I'll enter in 10.68. Preview that. So that's this bigger one, but I'm going to go here to, okay, gotta say okay first. Down here, it's this last one, and I'm going to select that object, go to shapes, and I'm going to change that to the EV stitch. So there it is, and it's going toward the inside. And one more time, I want to paste the circle. And for the final satin stitch, I want a wide satin stitch. And after playing with this, I've been finding that a 10.43 might work. So I'll go to the size again, change it to 10.43. And change that under shapes to the zigzag. And I'm going to go to the sewing order and make that much wider. I'm going to take it up to 20 or 22. So now you're seeing it here, but let me go back to 20 because 22 went out of the stitching area. I think this is slightly too big for a hoop, so I'll resize it just. Oh, that just resized part. So I'm going to go over here and undo that. I'm going to do a select all and go into size and just take it down about 1%. Let's preview that, see if it fits in the hoop. Well, that went down more than 1%. That looks like it fits in the hoop. I'm going to arrange it to the center for everything again. So that looks as though it's the largest circle we can put in this hoop. Let's give this a stitch simulation to see how it sews. Placement stitch, tack down stitch, buttonholes, place the next piece of fabric, put in the casing stitch. After trimming, put down this EV stitch and cover the top with the satin stitch. It's laying all the foundation for the satin stitch. So there's only one thing else you might do. You could put a straight stitch in the middle of the satin stitch if you felt it was getting too wide. And that'll do it. We'll go to the machine. Before you start your In the Hoop project, be sure you wind matching thread, your embroidery thread for the top and for the bottom for all parts that will be shown on both sides. You will also need to hoop water-soluble stabilizer in your largest hoop. You need 2 squares, at least 11 inches of fabric and some 1/4 inch elastic. Begin by stitching a placement stitch in your hoop. Your fabric will go upside down on top of this piece of stabilizer. With the first piece of fabric stitched on upside down, I'm going to layer a scrap of tearaway stabilizer for under the buttonholes. These buttonholes are so that the elastic can be threaded through after we've made this in the hoop. I'm making 2 buttonholes, so it actually could end up being something for a drawstring also. Once the buttonholes are complete, remove the excess tearaway stabilizer and lay your second piece of fabric on top. The final step is to create a satin finish around the outside edge, at which point you remove as much of the water-soluble stabilizer as possible and thread your elastic through the casing that you create. Just finishing up the satin stitch around the edge. Made the satin stitch 20 millimeters wide, so on top of it, right down the middle, I'm going to run another straight stitch to keep it more snag resistant.